High FM, 101.9 megahertz of life.
Joseph Gerassi, a very good morning. Thank you for being here. Well, I mean, this is actually the perfect kind of conversation, because I always tell you this. The first time I ever came across you was, maybe I haven't told you, was during a Raps Play Festival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You won an award. I remember, you were at Sandringham, right?
That's right.
And you won Best Play, I think? Or did you win Best Actor? There was one of those that you won.
Yeah, in that year we did two productions and I won Best Actor.
Was it Metamorphosis?
No, that was the year before. I did a show called Mickey Canis Caught My Eye. And then we did a Harold Pinter play, and we won for that.
But were you involved in Metamorphosis?
No.
Okay, so I remember Sandringham doing Metamorphosis.
Sandringham won with Metamorphosis the year after I graduated.
Okay, how's
the year
that
before that
for
we came second.
Right, how's that for a...
Yeah, Sandringham was a powerhouse of drama.
It's actually an amazing
in those years.
thing, hey?
Yeah, powerhouse.
It's really, really incredible that. And Gail says, I started watching Little House on the Prairie. I found it quite unwatchable.
Yeah, so did I.
Really?
No, totally. I put
Why?
it off halfway.
Boring.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe those of us who watched the original, it had so many good memories of those years, and we lived through that show. This one was just really boring. I did the same. So halfway,
okay, Gail, you are not alone. Look, I think these remakes need to work very, very hard to offer something.
There won't be a series 2. I promise you that.
Really,
no,
that bad?
It's.
Okay, so it's not a binge watching thing.
No, definitely.
No
not.
one's spending the whole weekend.
No,
watching
unless
it.
somebody wants to persevere and get onto episode 2, 3, or 4. But I mean,
you didn't get that far.
No. Halfway through
Wow.
episode 1, and that was enough.
Okay, let's talk about learning beyond the classroom, because you guys have this. Red Hill did phenomenally, and just give us a quick overview of this competition that these kids did brilliantly. I mean, but it's one of many. You are helping South Africa punch way above its weight internationally. So give us an overview of what's going on.
Howard, I think just in terms of the vision that we have at Red Hill, it's very much that we are an international school, a world-class international school, rooted in South Africa, and both of those are really important for us, because it's how do we get our kids to experience the world internationally, because I really do believe that the kids who have that experience are the kids that are going to go out and make a success of themselves. And it's not about the competition. We can talk about that, but it's also about representing South Africa. So we put the two together. They're not contradictory terms. You can be an international school proudly rooted in South Africa and being able to go overseas and expose South African thinking, South African diversity, which is always amazing, because our kids come back and they talk about that. Kids from the rest of the world generally look the same when they come in their competitions, and our kids are coming, and we've got Chinese kids and black kids and Jewish kids and white kids, and they're quite amazed by this diversity, and that becomes a real strength and a talking point. And so we're not only going overseas and representing what our students do from an academic point of view, a sporting point of view, but we're representing the true essence of what makes us South African and how proud we are to be South Africans. And they always come back saying how much prouder they are to be South African,
It's
being exposed to other people. That is really important. But yeah, we've had a lot of success. Because of us wanting to be international, we seek out international competitions.
Okay.
You've obviously got to do the first rounds in South Africa to become part of the South African
So how did, for
teams.
example, this math science, how did that work?
So there are lots of competitions.
Right.
The South African bodies are always looking for students. They run the internal competitions. We make sure that our kids enter all of those. And we've been lucky enough, to get to the top of the pile. We've represented South Africa in the Science Olympiads, Biology Olympiads, Debating Olympiads, you name it. And our kids are being exposed to countries like Colombia, Slovenia, Switzerland, all over the world, and are having a wonderful time. When you speak to them afterwards, it has nothing to do with the medals. Those type of things are completely secondary.
I would imagine.
It's all about them being exposed. In South Africa, our kids think that they're the top of the top, specifically in our private schools.
Yes,
they get 7 A's and whatever.
Right,
they think they're really bright until they get overseas. And then they're exposed to different countries, different nations, different ways of thinking. And all of a sudden they realize, hey, we're not at the top of the pile here. and it's quite humbling for them. But they also learn resilience, and they learn how to work with other kids. They come back and they talk about, which country stayed in their hotel, and you'll get, they'll say, oh, we were with the Lithuanians and the French and the Chinese. And it was awesome to learn about their countries, and they were so interested in our South African kids because they know nothing about South Africa.
Yeah, and I think that the many disadvantages of living in South Africa become advantages. Our kids understand adversity. They live alongside adversity. They live alongside, thinking that you're going to have the whole night to study for something, and then the electricity goes, and somebody else couldn't get to school because there was a problem. So I think that gives us as South Africans a sensitivity and openness to observing things around us, where others, as you say, might be so within a bubble. I mean, that it becomes limiting.
Yeah, very much so. These kids go overseas. It's incredible we've got kids in our middle and our primary school that go overseas.
Right.
So we run a brilliant maths program, and we generally make up half the teams that go overseas.
Right.
But they go to countries like Mongolia, South Korea, India.
Incredible.
And, obviously we send teachers with them.
What an experience.
But these kids come back and they are they're blown away by the countries that they go to.
Yeah.
And they go they're 12, 11, 12, 13 years old.
Incredible.
And it exposes them to different ways of thinking. Because what's incredible about these competitions is it's not about rote learning.
Right.
Because you're getting kids from all over the world who have different syllabi. So you can't give them an exam on a particular syllabus. You have to give them questions that get them to work together to try and problem solve
and apply skills. Yeah,
so you have to be teaching your kids back here in South Africa. I mean, we spoke earlier about how do we prepare children for a world that we don't know what we're going into.
I want to come to that.
You prepare them to think outside of the box.
Right.
You do not prepare them by getting them to learn rote. Unfortunately, the worst thing that we have in South Africa, as we have all over the world, are these damn end-of-year exams. Because your last 2 years...
Yeah, because you're just vomiting.
No, that's all you're doing. You are being trained how... You're it's like training, somebody to do a trick.
Yeah.
I always say at Red Hill, we finish educating at the end of grade 10. And then grade 11 and grade 12, you could put these kids in a different building and you could just say, okay, we're now just going to teach you how to write an exam.
Right.
It's such a pity because we miss out on 2 incredibly important years where our kids are actually, at the height of their thinking. They've built up their cognitive ability. This is where they should really be now looking at how do we solve real world problems. So that's why we've just built what we call our innovation hub. It's a double-story building that is all about future thinking. It's all about project-based learning. It's all about getting stuff out to the market, coming up with ideas, ideating, and the entire program will be run with no curriculum. There's no learning. There's no rote learning. We're looking at bringing in fellows. We call them fellows.
Right.
So these are students that have come out of the university who have been in the high-tech world, who've been in the innovation world, to come and work with us. So they take a gap year. They come into the school. We have 5 or 6 of them that work in the innovation hub. And all they do is they get students who come in there who want to have startups. So they've got an idea.
And what age would this be in terms of student?
Oh, we go all the way from middle school. So you're basically grade 6.
So it's it's from grade 6 all
the way through.
And it's kids who want to engage in entrepreneurship and future thinking.
Completely. But without us telling them what they need to do.
Yes.
So we're there to guide them, to expose them to different ways of thinking. But it's up to them to put together teams, etc. I mean, one of the ideas in terms of, for instance, them having to create a business, there you've got your entrepreneur skills, etc., is we're looking at having a Red Hill Stock Exchange.
Ah, how wonderful.
Right. So basically the kids are learning how the stock exchange works. Kids have to learn what do you do with your money.
What a great idea.
And we've got a big board that actually has the companies that are listed then on the Red Hill Stock Exchange.
How
and
wonderful.
Students can buy into those companies and learn what it is what does a share mean? What is it, you think you can just buy a share, but if there's no shares available, you can't buy those shares. And how, if there's demand for those shares, and it has to be high tech innovative projects and innovative startups. You can't go and start...
Because again, those skills, there's a certain amount of basic skills you're always going to need in running a business, because it's always going to be about certain principles. That said, even if we don't yet know what this world is going to look like in 5 or 10 years' time, and I'm always amazed by the insecurity that people have with saying they don't know what the world looks like. So what?
Absolutely.
How exciting is that? Because you can be part of making it look a certain way, and B, get certain of those skills that you're always going to need, and you'll be there for that. For that.
So we're not boxing children into a way of thinking or being. So like tonight, I've got an information evening, and the first thing I start off with is I say to the parents, do not think of a profession, think of an area where your child is interested in, and go into that area of interest, because things are going to change so rapidly in terms of where technology is going, that to try and position your child now in a particular profession, you're only going to be disappointed, and so is your child. Pick up the skills, go into the areas where you have strengths, areas that you enjoy. I always say it's more important to do something that you're good at. Passion is important, but do something you're good at. I always say, I would have, my passion would have been to sing on the West End,
right?
But I would have been a starving actor, right?
Well, if the way you say,
you see, this morning,
I don't want to be.
I was good at teaching. I was good at teaching,
right?
And then you learn to really love it because it gets reinforced. People say, "Wow, you're an amazing teacher," so you start to love it, and so your passion grows into in what you're good at,
right?
So it's about identifying that. And schools have to, the part the school plays is how do we get the kids away from that rote learning and into, as I said, coming up with ideas, ideating.
Of course, the problem being that the reality in South Africa, around the world as well, is we are still, as you say, grade 11 and 12 required. So it's almost that you're stepping out, but keeping back within that space. That's got to be a challenge for teachers, because for teachers as well are often measured by the results of their students.
100%.
So it's very natural. Therefore, I was reading up on this Cobra. Have you heard of this? It's called the Cobra effect.
No.
Okay, so I hadn't heard of it either, but it's something. Basically, in Delhi, when it was part of the empire, they had a problem with cobras. There were too many snakes. So what they decided to do, the local government there, the British government, was they would pay people to catch cobras and bring them in. So if somebody brought in a cobra, they'd give them money. Great, it started working well, but then the problem became that people there were smart, and they said, hold on, why don't I just breed cobras?
Exactly.
So they started breeding cobras, and there were these cobra farms, and then they realized there were too many that they were paying for, so they abandoned the whole thing. What happened is they let the cobras go.
Right.
So then they had landed up with a bigger problem than that which they started with. So it's this way of measurement, and this repeats itself in all areas, including education, when you are only assessing kids on their matric marks. So teachers get measured often, unfortunately, by the result that they get, but actually that isn't a brilliant
So one
measure.
of the ways we dealt with that is one of the reasons why we split the school into a middle school and a senior school.
Right.
Because unfortunately, if you're in a senior school when you're in grade 8 and grade 9, you start to fall into that box because you've got teachers that are preparing you for exams.
Yes.
When you're in a middle school up until grade 9 and the teachers are not worried about end-of-year exams, they then don't have to have the stress of, as you said, the Cobra effect of saying, well, we need to do these type of things. They can concentrate on developing the child's skills, and we've looked at a whole way of measuring those skills, and it has nothing to do with marks. It has to do with creative skills, being able to think out of the box, being innovative. And so your entire middle school, that's their main project.
Right.
Yes, once you get to the senior school, well, then you've got teachers who are experts at being able to get those kind of results. It is a pity.
Yes.
Hopefully the world will change and they'll start to see that doesn't actually help us by getting kids to regurgitate facts. But until that happens, it's still part of education.
Do you see any signs that it's changing?
No, none whatsoever.
I really was hoping for a different answer.
We
like a
would
glimmer,
like a glimmer.
Nothing.
No, because unfortunately it's just easier that way. So in life, people try and do things that are just easy and comfortable. It's just easier to say write a matric and then we'll get a result and therefore we'll know where you get into university. I'm saying you should go to university, and universities should have their own entrance exams, and they should be examining you on the type of skills we're talking about. They should not rely on matric results. At the end of the day, you should be able to go to university with a portfolio of work that you've produced and be able to show them, this is the work that I've come up with, this is the stuff that I've done. Then schools would change, because universities would say, show me what you've done, not show me your result at the end of a regurgitation test. Unless universities are wanting students to just regurgitate facts. But if universities are wanting students that can think outside of the box to be able to do proper research, they should be the ones putting the pressure on the authorities. The authorities are not going to change.
So it should be coming from that direction,
Absolutely.
From universities downward,
Absolutely.
so to speak.
Absolutely.
A couple of comments. Karen M. says, my son runs a top IT company. As a young child, he could never have envisaged his profession because we didn't have computers.
Absolutely.
Carol Z says, Red Hill is a superb school. Wishing you success. And Adam L. says, random comment, Joseph first teaching, one of his first teaching jobs was grade 10 history at King David Victory Park in 1989. I don't know if that's true, if that's accurate.
It was.
I was in that class. He was a
Oh,
fantastic
wow.
teacher. He made the subject so interesting and enjoyable.
Thank you.
So he also at that time ran the school's performing arts, and it was such fun under his leadership. So there you go. Huge compliments. That is where we do need to leave it. Just before I do let you go, what would you say in terms of leadership at Red Hill? But it could apply, I guess, to if other leaders, educational leaders, buy into it. What is your priority in terms of, because being a leader, being an educator today is a real challenge. We are at a time of change. What do you think the number one priority is?
My number one priority is always to look for new opportunities in education. So I'm very lucky that I have heads of schools who manage my school, the different schools. They look after the academics, they manage that. Of course, I'm there to make sure that things are run properly. But I see my foremost role is to be able to be doing research all the time, and to look where are the new opportunities in education and how can we give those opportunities to our students, because at the heart of what we do is the child, and we have to always be looking at the world this child is going into, and are we preparing that child for that world, not necessarily for results at the end of the day.
Joseph Gerassi, thank you. Executive Head at Red Hill. I'm Howard Feldman. This is your Morning Mayhem, 101.9 Chai FM.